and welcome to the one, the only, Tony's Fair 2021. Yes, my name is Ikenna Azuike, and from my very chocolatey surroundings, we're going to give you the lowdown on how Tony's Chocolonely is changing the chocolate industry from within. Expect cool speakers, engaging conversations, inspiring creative performances. And expect a story about impact. Are you ready? Let's go. DJ.
I'm your effort party baby. I'm your effort party baby. Right after the party, so I can come over. Kiss me, don't pretend that you are sober. Lose your control now, nothing I won't allow. I'm your effort party baby. I'm your effort party baby.
Now, nice energetic reminder of the Tony's Fair in years gone by. Okay, so we all know Tony's chocolate, but do you know the story behind their vision? A truly fair chocolate industry. How is Tony's making impact? What are their big ambitions? Well, over the next hour, we'll get answers to those questions and many more. But first, I welcome to my delicious chocolate-covered table none other than the Chief Chocolate Officer himself, Henk-Jan Beltman.
Thank you, Ikenna. Thank you for having me.
Tell me, we just saw some images there of the iconic Gashouder where the Tony's Fair was held in previous years.
Yeah.
On a personal level, what does the Tony's Fair mean to you?
Tony's Fair is a State of the Union. We actually present what we have accomplished and where we failed at and where we've been successful. Also the ambition for the coming years. And we want to celebrate a little bit because we're crazy when it comes down to chocolate and serious when it comes down to people. We cannot do it alone. You cannot generate a 100% slave-free chocolate world without any help. So we need the help, and we want to say big thanks for consumers, Team Tony's, customers, suppliers, everybody, farmers who helped us to really get where we are. And they want to team up with us to actually make the impact. So it's all about the State of the Union.
It's all in here.
Yeah.
And you've been doing this now for 10 years. That's a pretty special moment. A decade has gone by. But a decade's gone by and you haven't yet achieved the mission. How does that feel?
Well, it is a big task, right? And it's really blunt and arrogant and naive to actually say, overnight we're going to change chocolate. If you realize that over 1.5 million children are working illegally in the value chain of cocoa today, that needs to change. And what we have accomplished is there is huge awareness of the problem. We have actually made great progress within Tony's in a scalable manner. And now it's all making sure that the rest of the chocolate industry will follow, so that together we will eradicate the whole problem.
Yeah, but you're putting a lot of responsibility on your own shoulders, the Tony's shoulders, and that's right because it's an ambitious mission. But people's livelihoods are on the line. What does it mean to you every day when you walk into Tony's knowing that?
Well, it's fantastic, right? If you realize that Tony's is an impact company that makes chocolate and not the other way around, then you want to give everything that you have. You want to make the world a nicer place. So the aim of Tony's is not to sell chocolate bars on its own, but to eradicate illegal labor from the value chain of cocoa. And people do want to work in a company that makes the world a nicer place. Because I fundamentally think and believe that companies should. And that's why we really, really work with a great bunch of people towards the mission. And one day, I promise you, we'll accomplish that.
Okay, big words, ambitious words. And I know that something else that Tony's is very good at is thinking up ways to make people really feel like the impact of what they're doing. And your chocolate bars are notoriously difficult to break up into equal pieces.
Unequally, yeah.
But there is a story behind that, right?
Absolutely.
Let us tell you a little something about our chocolate bar. It's unequally divided, which is indeed difficult to share equally. However, it's going to stay that way because our chocolate tells an important story. Let us explain. Here's where 60% of all the world's cocoa comes from. There are lots and lots of cocoa plantations here. where cocoa farmers work incredibly hard for very little money, and where children are forced into doing illegal and dangerous work so that big chocolate companies can purchase cocoa for a low price in order to become even bigger and richer. So, as long as the chocolate industry is unequally divided, our bar will stay that way too. Tony's vision is 100% slave-free chocolate. Not just our chocolate, but all chocolate worldwide.
We saw in that video why modern slavery and child labor still exists. Just how widespread is it, though?
If you realize it's over 1.5 million children doing illegal work, then it's extremely widespread. And if you realize it's around 60% of the production of cocoa comes from West Africa, then you cannot touch a bar without actually thinking of this issue. It should be eradicated at full. You cannot enjoy a chocolate bar if you realize that there's modern slavery going on, right? And it's just, if you take a plane, it's 6 hours. And the world is completely different.
Yeah.
It's so unequally shared.
You encourage people to buy chocolate and share and feel the impact of Tony's mission. What's the long-term strategy for Tony's, though, to achieve the mission?
Well, it's a bold mission, right? And you already said, how far are we? And it's still a battle. We think if you have a big challenge of eradicating all illegal labor from the value chain of cocoa, you have to have a plan. We do have a roadmap. First, we want to create awareness. Secondly, we want to set a scalable example. And thirdly, we want to enforce or encourage all big chocolate companies to follow suit so that together we can make the impact. And this is a little bit naive and arrogant, but I fundamentally think and believe that even the people working in other chocolate companies, they want to solve the problem as well.
So a business strategy for creating impact, that's what you got.
That's the only reason the business exists, right? We're so twisted in this moment in time that companies exist to earn money, but I don't want to make sure that companies earn money. Companies should work towards a purpose, and money is only a means to a goal in the end.
Okay.
And the goal is actually the mission to eradicate all illegal labor from the value chain of cocoa.
Well, thank you very much, Henk-Jan. I'm pleased to say we'll have other members of Team Tony's as well joining us at the table today to dig further into the Tony's impact story and their ambitions. Shadrach Frimpong is a unique voice and storyteller in the cocoa industry. He's an entrepreneur, an academic, and founder of Cocoa 360, a non-profit that funds education and healthcare in cocoa-growing communities across rural Ghana. He's won countless awards, including the Queen's Young Leader Award in the UK for his leadership in the non-profit sector.
Over the years, one thing I've realized is the narratives from the cocoa farmers are not being heard in the right way. And I find myself in this very privileged position of having a background at some of the best schools, growing up and actually experiencing these things firsthand, and having family members who still experience them. The least I could do was to get the companies that deeply care about the issues that affect cocoa farmers, like my parents, like my siblings, like my cousins, get the opportunity to hear these narratives. My name is Shadrach Frimpong. I'm from Ghana. I'm a doctoral student in primary care medicine and public health here at the University of Cambridge as a Gates Cambridge Scholar. I feel very, very strongly about, speaking about the issues in the cocoa industry and getting them heard in the right way. Because, first of all, the issues that affect these communities, to me, is not something I've read. I've lived through it. And what saddens me is the wrong voices are getting heard and not the right voices. To solve the issues in the industry, we have to get the right issues. We're only going to get the right issues by hearing from the right voices. The second way we can solve the issues in the industry is by redistributing the power. There's a farmer and his community folks who need to create what you call the implementation board. They need to be the folks who come up with what do we need to do, how do we do it, when do we do it. It stops there. They understand, they hold that decision-making power. On the other side, you have the, whether it's the white Westerners, whether it's the black Westerners, whether it's even in-country people, whether who live in Accra but they don't live in the community, but they can facilitate that doing process with their money, with their ideas, and all of that. So then, each one teach one, and then it works. To, sort of deal with some of the issues we see in the industry. At Cocoa 360, when we first went into the communities, whenever we went to them and we asked questions, they started coming closer. We found out when we started asking them questions about what to do, how do we do it, and all of that, they said, look, let's meet. Let's have a community group meeting. So the moment we realized that, we said, okay, then we need to create a facilitating an implementation board here. We call it the village committee to influence everything. My call to action to the chocolate industry is really just stop listening to the wrong voices. Really, just stop. Listen to the people. Don't tokenize the voices of these community members. The cocoa farmers, their voices are so key.
Shadrach Frimpong there. Joining me now is one of Tony's impact makers, Belinda Bork. Welcome, Belinda.
Thank you.
You heard it there from the man himself. The farmers need a bigger seat at the table when they need to be heard more. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely true. We believe that if we want to change the norm in the industry, we all need to be working together. And what we aim for are equal business relationships. And that's absolutely true. We need to aim to work together on implementing our 5 sourcing principles.
Okay, 5 sourcing principles, what are those?
That's our right-based approach of doing business. And 5 sourcing principles in total. So first of all, you need to know where your beans come from. So that's all about buying traceable beans. You need to pay a higher price. You need to commit to long-term partnerships. Then you need to work together with the cooperatives to professionalize and to also really make cocoa farming more sustainable. And last, but definitely not least, you also need to invest into agricultural skills to improve productivity and quality as well.
Okay, so once you've done that, everything's fine. You need to do all 5.
Yes, you definitely need to implement all 5 together to be able to really implement a more sustainable solution.
Yeah. How do you enforce that, though? You need to audit companies, suppliers?
Based on the fact that we aim for more business equality, we want to foster trust and actually work together more with our suppliers. So that means we aim for co-ownership in that context, and we definitely do not want to check on anyone or audit anyone in that context.
No, but don't you need to a little bit? Or you just give them free rein?
It is about building our relationship on trust. Mm-hmm. So that is the main aim behind this, is that you foster an eye-level business relationship.
Yeah, and it's working?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, in Ghana, one of the cooperatives that Tony's has worked the longest with is Abokfa. Let's get their point of view, and we'll hear from the manager of Abokfa, Stephen Ashia.
Personally, cocoa is a very good thing to me. If you look at it, as at now I'm talking, I've been able to acquire 10-acre land. I've also produced cocoa, and also helping farmers in all areas also to produce cocoa, and it makes me happy. My name is Stephen Ashia. I'm the manager of Abokfa. We work together with Tony Chocolonely for almost 10 years, and we supply organic fair trade cocoa to Tony Chocolonely. If you look at the value chain of cocoa, farmers are neglected. They are not taking part in when it comes to the decision making. Even in Ghana, the pricing, farmers are left out. The decision is taken at the top, neglecting the farmers, those who really produce the cocoa. So I think there's a need for the farmers to get involved in all the decision making. If you look at the way the trend, the way things are going, if the price of the cocoa is not paid in a good manner, I think it is going to be a time where the farmers, most of the youth will not get into the cocoa production. I think Tony's 5 sourcing principle is a good thing which helps in community, but there's more room for improvement. But I think if you look at the 5 principle, for instance, it has really helped Abokfa to be professionally cooperative. It also helped to improve the community in which we're living. If you go to some of the communities now, they have a good water, a good school, they have a good area to operate. The environment has been created in such a way that the children are now happy to go to school. And also the community are also happy because they get additional money out of the cocoa they sell to Tony Chokoloni, which is good, and it also helps them to work on their farm. Also now, because of Tony's 5 principle on child labor, now most of the farmers are sending their children to school. Having a very long partnership with Tony has really helped to increase our productivity. If you look at when we started, we were producing about 15 metric tons. That's about 8 years ago. But currently, we are producing more than 12,200 metric tons, which shows that it's because long-term relation where Tony also supports us in all aspects for us to be able to produce more. As a manager of Abofa, we have a strategic plan we set, which is for a long term. We want Abofa to be seen in a different dimension as compared to currently. So based on that, we have acquired a 10-acre land, which is in a strategic position along Suhum Accra Way. And we want to get a partnership which will come and then maybe help Abofa even to produce cocoa in a different form, and also that Abofa can also earn additional income.
Isn't it, though, a little bit reductive, like to reduce everything to 5 principles? I mean, how can you take, especially considering what we just heard, how can you take the 5 principles, 5 sourcing principles, to the next level?
So the 5 sourcing principles are our framework within which we act, right? They are absolutely work in progress. So it's always about the aspect of working together and therefore developing, evolving, and really learning from each other and listening to each other as well. And it's a joint process, right? So the idea of really listening and finding out from each other how we can improve this, that's absolutely the case. Because in the end, it's also not just about Tony's as a company to change the norm, because that's simply impossible if it's just us. But if we want to change the industry norm, we really all need to work together on this, right? That means that also other companies need to start acting, and they also need to adopt the essence that really stands behind this. And the essence behind this is that human rights are simply never optional, also not in a corporate context. And that means we all, in the end, and that comes down to what we mean by this framework of the 5 sourcing principles, we need to put people before profit.
A very clear call to action there. Put people before profit. Thank you very much, Belinda Book.
Thank you.
Time for something or someone a little different. The Tony's Fair is all about changing the norm and moving to the next level. And our first performer of the day does exactly that, literally. It's movement artist and status quo anarchist Jill the Grid.
Bare backs, bare hands, bare feet, strands of history stretched across lands where the scorching sun still sings of memories. Melodies reveal the rings of trees who tell us that life grows through cycles. And inside those chords, the vibrating fibers form a trembling voice. We have a choice, she says. We talk about breaking cycles, breaking chains, breaking the silence, the break of day, breaking through ceilings of cellophane. We break and break and break again. Now, what will we build from here? Our bare hands, bare backs, bare feet deserve more than bare minimum wages. Our feet have walked through more ages than a lifetime can count. Our backs bear books of unwritten tales where our story is found, and our hands that craft and break, the power of creation and destruction both coursing through our veins, are still healing from the cuts of paper planes. So bear with us. Bear with us, dismantle and adjust, be fair with us, care with us, share with us. We're no beggars, just storytellers here to remind you we're starting a new chapter.
Jill the grid there with a poignant reflection on people versus profit. Now, let's take a look at what it actually means to put people before profit. The annual fair report is jam-packed full of Tony's hard facts and figures. But what about the story behind the numbers? Well, here to tell that story is dynamic duo. Jan Houw, Chief Financial Officer.
Absolutely.
And Paul Schoenmakers, Head of Impact.
Right.
First, though, let's take a look at this year's Impact highlights.
More sales mean more beans, which means more impact. And this year, we crossed the 100 million revenue mark for the first time, growing our global business by 24%. Oh yeah, that's a lot of impact. But let's not avoid the elephant in the room. Because of a bunch of one-off costs, we saw a loss of 4.3%. We're confident, though, that the next year we can reach a net profit of at least 1%. We welcomed 3 new open chain mission allies this year. Hey there, Oldie, Yocolada, and Fly. Together with Albert Heijn, they sourced 3,957 tons of cocoa beans. That's a whopping 237% increase from last year, resulting in a mind-blowing 12,574 tons of beans being sourced using Tony's 5 sourcing principles, 87% more than last year. Whoa! All this from our 7 partner cooperatives in Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, and 8,921 farmers who each received a higher price for their cocoa, enabling them to earn a living income. To make this happen, we paid an extra 3.7 billion euro for cocoa this year. Good news! The longer we work together with co-ops, the lower the prevalence of child labour. We onboarded 2 new partner co-ops this year, which, needless to say, led to an increase on child labour cases found. At our newest co-ops, child labour is at 50.5%, while at our long-time partners, it's 3.9%. What a difference, right? We're happy to report that we resolved 67% more child labour cases compared to last year. Next year, we aim to resolve all the cases found this year. It's been a mega year for our movement. We grew our serious friends from 65,000 to 109,526. Our Choco fans helped us call on Big Choco to copy us, after we made lookalikes of familiar bars in our Sweet Solution campaign. And they got behind us to push for legislation that makes all companies accountable for their supply chains too. Cheers to you, Choco fans. Only together we can raise the bar to take our impact to the next level. Are you in?
Jan, Tony's says that it puts people before profit.
Yeah.
We've heard that a lot. But Tony's is also a hugely successful commercial company.
Yeah.
So profit is not a dirty word at Tony's either.
No, definitely. It's not a dirty word, but we definitely put people before profit. So to see what is our commercial success and how we like to manage our business is really, if you look at sales, it's euros. So from a financial perspective, that makes sense. But those euros stands for beans, right? So the more we sell, the more beans we source, the more impact we make. So that's really something we strive for.
Yeah, and the more impact you make, but financially, that's your responsibility.
Absolutely.
You guys passed an amazing landmark, 100 million in revenue, but you made a loss. How did that happen?
Yeah, good point. No. So we're really happy, first of all, to take the compliment that we indeed, for the first time in Tony's history, crossed the mark of 100 million of sales. I mean, that's a massive achievement.
The loss, Jan.
But if you focus on the loss, indeed, we made 4.7 million of loss. So that's a huge number also for Tony's. But if you take off some one-offs, which are definitely driving that number, you see that we're actually profit-making. So we come to roughly 1% profitability, which is a good number for Tony's. Not our level that we want to aim at yet, but it shows a growth path that makes us confident for the future.
Okay, can you make a loss and have impact, Paul?
Absolutely. Like Jan said, the more beans we can buy, the more impact that we can make. Every year, more farmers can supply to us. And because we pay the living income reference price on all that cocoa, we're actually fighting the root cause of the problems in cocoa, which is the extreme poverty of cocoa farmers.
Okay, but you mentioned the living income reference price. That there's other impressive results, the growth in bean volume, the premium paid. But this living income reference price, is that enough for a farmer to get a living wage? And you've got 8,921 farmers.
21, yes, this year. So it's not just the price, right? So you need price and volume. So we also support cocoa farmers to increase their productivity, that they can grow more beans. But this is the reference price that was calculated that actually says if you pay this price, then you enable cocoa farmers to earn a living income. So next to paying that, we are also working, of course, to increase our volumes that we buy from all these farmers and also support them in growing their total output.
Okay, but I mean, still, something must sit a bit uncomfortably, no? Let's say for you, Jan, I mean, you're responsible for financially, there's this huge growth in revenue, but farmers are still not earning enough to enjoy a very comfortable life.
No, it's really tough indeed, but I think that really stimulates us to see how ambitious we are. So if you look at next year's target, we want to grow 34%. So that shows that, again, more sales, more beans.
What does that mean for the farmers?
That we're going to have more co-ops, we're going to onboard more co-ops, and in the end have more farmers on their Tony program. And that's in the end where we have more impact.
So more money for the farmers? Is that a commitment? If you reach that growth, is there more money for the farmers?
Absolutely, because there's more volume, right? So we will pay this reference price still, but then we buy more beans, so the total income will go up.
Okay, clear. Well, that's a good commitment to end on. Thank you very much for unpacking those numbers with us. Joining me now are Nicola Matthews, Head of Marketing for Tony's UK, and Joe Lane, Chief Product at Tony's, to talk about Tony's boldest campaign yet, Sweet Solution. But first, they've been a big source of inspiration to Tony's Chocolonely from the very beginning. Outspoken, provocative, and even fearless on big social issues. And of course, known for their world-famous ice cream. They hardly need an introduction, but I'll tell you who they are anyway. Ben & Jerry's. Their journey of scaling up and staying bold wasn't always easy, though.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew McCarthy, and I've got the privilege of being the CEO of Ben & Jerry's. Thank you for having me. It's great to be with the entire Tony's team. You know, when I think about Ben & Jerry's, of course, I think about great ice cream. I think about wild and wacky flavors. But I mainly think about Ben & Jerry's as an experiment that started 43 years ago by Jerry and by Ben, who really came up with this wild idea of having business that not only made great products, but was part of changing the world, changing business, changing capitalism, and making real impact in our communities. And it was a really unreasonable idea, but thankfully it worked after the first year, and we've kept that going over time. Scaling that growth has certainly been challenging. We started here in the United States, and we've grown to now over 30 countries. And we've had the normal growing pains of scaling a business and manufacturing and suppliers and all those things. But I think the most important parts of growing our business have been principles and pragmatism. What are those principles that have actually helped found this business? The principles that come from our co-founders, the things that are really in the DNA of our business and that continue to guide us. At the same time, we have to be increasingly pragmatic. Innovation and coming up with wild and crazy new ideas is part of what Ben & Jerry's is all about. So sometimes we have to actually challenge some of the things that we've done in the past and let go of some things in order to pursue our principles, in order to take Ben & Jerry's to new places. I think also Ben & Jerry's is all about being bold when it's required, speaking your voice, taking risks, and reframing challenges to find solutions with partners. Some of the things that we've done over the years that have been bold for their time, perhaps, supporting gay marriage, supporting Black Lives Matter, supporting refugee and asylum seeker rights. But interestingly, these things are just as important today, along with climate justice, than ever. And we're continuing to drive forward on social justice and climate justice. And what's also interesting is that the world is very polarized right now. We all know it. I don't need to tell you that. But what that means is that people will disagree with things that we do at Ben & Jerry's. They've disagreed for 43 years. They'll continue to disagree for another 43. Businesses should not be in the business of trying to be all things to all people. But it's important to keep your principles very close and know what you stand for as you plow forward into times of uncertainty and in the face of some people disagreeing with you, which is perfectly fine. You know, joy is also something that really matters to Ben & Jerry's. We talk a lot about joy and justice, and they're not either or. Some of the justice topics that we tackle are difficult. They are challenging. But we also try to do things in a way that brings joy to people. I mean, we're in the ice cream business. You're in the chocolate business. We're really kindred spirits as it relates to bringing joy and justice to the world. And speaking about joy, one of my favorite, probably my favorite flavor of Tony's is the dark chocolate 70%. I love having me some dark chocolate from Tony's with also some peanut butter. I have to confess, I'm a big peanut butter and chocolate fan. Thank you very much. Take care of yourselves.
What do you think? Collaboration in store?
Be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Ben & Jerry's, Tony's, I can totally see it. Okay, but let's focus on Tony's, okay? Tony's own boldness in action. The Sweet Solution bars is what we're here to talk about, and you guys have prepared a kind of animation, right? Should we run that first?
Yeah, that'd be good. Let's see that.
Okay.
Hey, we're Tony's Chocolonely. We strive for 100% slave-free chocolate. Not just our own chocolate, but chocolate all over the world. 20 years ago, the Harkin-Engel Protocol was signed, where the chocolate industry pledged to end all illegal labor in the cocoa chain. So that should have all happened long ago. In reality, the opposite is real. Many people in the West African cocoa chain still live far below the poverty line, which is why we've made our process open chain. Anyone can copy us. So together, we can make slave-free the norm. Delicata chocolate from Albert Heijn has already joined. Now, we also want to inspire the international chocolate makers with these limited editions. Because only if everyone participates, including the major chocolate brands, can we together make slave-free chocolate the most normal thing in the world. Tony's Chocolonely. Crazy about chocolate, serious about people.
Ooh, very provocative. Were you nervous about putting that campaign out? I can imagine the legal department must have had a bit of a meltdown.
I wasn't nervous. I was actually incredibly excited because I knew what the power of the campaign could be. Yeah. But legally, yes, we had a few lawyers involved. But the thing we were actually most worried about was the risk of copyright infringement. So we thought the big chocolate companies would care that, our bars looked similar to theirs. But actually what they cared most about was that we were implying that there was modern slavery and illegal child labour in their chocolate. But as we know, that is a problem that is endemic in that area of West Africa where they all source from. So it's a problem that we can't ignore.
Yeah. And what was the response like among fans then? People who buy the chocolate?
Yeah, our Choco fans absolutely loved it. So even though it was removed from supermarkets in the UK, they went crazy for it, drove a lot of buzz on social media, and we still sold out of all the bars on our Choco shop. And it actually really did a big job in growing our movement overall. So our serious friends, the people that share our chocolate and share our story the most, that last year grew by over 67%. And the most important thing is that we made impact. So we gathered a total of 66,099 petition signatures for our supply chain due diligence legislation. And that's impact.
Huge. Yeah. What about, in terms of starting conversations, deepening conversations with other players in the chocolate industry? Did it do that at all?
It got a lot of press. So what they were forced to do was comment to the press about the campaign, which for a small chocolate brand like us is pretty impressive, I think, to get that response. But we still haven't seen any response to us personally or any new action that they're taking to change their sourcing principles. And that's ultimately what we want to see.
Is it not then a bit risky, to poke them like this? Mm-hmm.
We actually
you need them.
Yeah, we do. We do want them to adopt our sourcing principles, but we're so small. So if we want to get their attention, we have to be bold. And that's exactly what this campaign did.
All right, let's talk about that boldness then Joe. How important are the chocolate fans in helping Tony's achieve its mission?
So the chocolate fans, the people who buy chocolate, our chocolate, they're so important. It's those guys, it's their money, their spending power that the big chocolate companies want, right? So when they make a choice, when they choose to shout loudly on social media or sign the petition that Nick referenced, or crucially spend their money, that's them making a movement, that's them making a difference. So they're so important, the Choco fans.
Yeah. Okay, chocolate fans aside then, what about the product itself, the chocolate? How does that help you achieve the mission?
Chocolate help us achieve our mission. It's so inextricably linked. Firstly, our chocolate is our way of leading by example. So we prove that you can make great tasting chocolate that is still sourced ethically. And if we can do that, if Tony's can do that, anybody could do it.
Yeah.
The second way is that it's our way of making impact ourselves. So every bar and every bean that's in every bar is sourced using our 5 sourcing principles. So we sell more bars, we buy more beans, we make a bigger difference in West Africa. So in order to sell more bars, people need to love our products. They need to be delicious, they need to be surprising, they need to be bold, and we need people to fall in love with our products.
Well, lots of people have already fallen in love, including, I'm afraid, myself. Far too many bars. But thank you both for joining us. And if you at home would like to try Sweet Solution bars, you can get them at the Tony's online Choco shop. But be careful, because you may never want to switch back to the originals. Let's have a look at how a small German condom-making company, Einhorn, created a huge movement to influence decision-making at policy level.
We invited Waldemar and Philip to come to Amsterdam and talk about a 7-day team swap between Einhorn and Tony Chocolonely. We have always been inspired by the company Einhorn. We came fully prepared and of course well-dressed. But first, some serious matters.
Buongiorno, we are the founders of Einhorn, a sex safety company.
And can you tell a little bit about the condoms?
Well, of course. This is one bag of condoms. It's 7 pieces, 14 grams, consisting fairy dust. So if you're allergic to fairy dust, that's not good. Don't use them, but they are vegan. To open them, please don't tear them open, bang them open.
Next to condoms, you make period products.
Affirmative. We call it menstrual product because it's not a hygienic issue, it's a menstrual issue.
Do you think companies should be political?
Well, the thing is, companies are already political. With lobbyism, they pay people millions to get through what they want as a company to succeed and make more profits. And what they don't care for is the planet. That's why we have to create movements, big movements of civic society, scientists, activists, and companies also to change this and to make people fulfill their wishes again, not the wishes of single companies.
The petition that Einhorn supported was to change the tax rate on menstrual products.
With a group of activists together in Germany, we lowered the tax on menstrual products from 19% to 7%.
People who menstruate do not really have a choice, do they? That's why this petition was aimed to remove the unfair gender-based discrimination in taxation. And they succeeded.
Yes, and if it's something is unfair and you tell the story and use the competences companies of course have in a network maybe, then you get people on board.
I saw on your website that we can do a CEO swap. But instead of doing a CEO swap, I think it's a better plan that a team of yours, Einhorn team, will come to Amsterdam to rule Tony Chocolonely for a week, and then we with a small team go to Berlin to do that. Is that a good idea?
You are a true visionary.
It's not hot. No.
Companies are changing the world, but for the worse at the moment. And as you know, at Chocolonely's, companies can also change the world for good.
Einhorn proves that you can be a force for good while having fun.
Oops. Next to me now, I have Pavitra Ram, who is an impact maker at Tony's. And at Tony's, you are pushing the European Union to make companies 100% responsible for human rights abuses in their value chains, right? Why is Tony's putting, through you, so much focus on legislation?
Well, we've seen that empty promises do not work. All the voluntary commitments and agreements to end human rights abuses in supply chains has not worked. In 2001, chocolate companies signed the Haag and Engel Protocol, promising to end the worst forms of child labor in their supply chains. 20 years later, 1.56 million children still are engaged in child labor in Ghana and Ivory Coast. So it's time to make human rights abuses illegal in supply chains.
Okay, so the big question is, how are you going to put pressure on legislators so that they actually listen?
So we've been doing this in different ways. So firstly, we did have the Sweet Solutions campaign, where the main call to action was for Choco fans to sign the petition. So through the petition, we really created awareness about why legislation is needed, and we created momentum. So we had 66,000 Choco fans who backed us up in our demand for legislation. Mm-hmm. And this is just one way. So, of course, we also put forth our position to the policymakers and make sure that our very ambitious position is is known.
It's ambitious, but they don't seem to be listening yet, so 66,000 isn't enough. Are you collaborating with other people? Can you join forces?
For systemic change to happen, one needs to collaborate with all stakeholders in the sector, right? So yes, we do collaborate with chocolate companies, we collaborate with civil society. So yes, and we see that there is a lot of willingness, and more companies now want legislation. So we see willingness. Now what we need to see is action.
Okay. To achieve that action, though, you say it's all about collaboration. So there are clearly some conversations that are not yet happening. Who would you love to just put in a room together and force them to talk to one another and throw away the key?
Well, I'd like to then put in the room the most ambitious policymaker and the least willing company in the same room.
Okay, give me some names.
I cannot.
You can.
I am sorry.
You can. You can.
I cannot.
Okay, very good. Maybe you should be a politician because you're good at resisting.
I'm a lawyer.
Even worse. Okay, tell me about. Let's fast forward into the future. What do you hope or expect to see in practice, in concrete terms, when it comes to legislation?
We're optimistic about the momentum in the EU right now, so we're waiting for the European Commission to come forth with a proposal for legislation. But what we will also focus our efforts on is the same kind of momentum in our other markets, so the UK and the US.
Okay, and a personal ambition for yourself next year, let's say? It's a Paviram goal?
A Paviram goal would be that we see more companies become willing to be regulated and ambitious legislation in place.
Okay, and you're going to work tirelessly till that happens.
Tirelessly.
Everyone at Tony's is working tirelessly till the mission is achieved.
We do have chocolate to keep us going.
Okay, good. You're powered by chocolate. Thank you very much, Paviram. Joining us now, we have the Tony's Open Chain lead, Joke Arts. Joke, welcome. And the Tony's Chief of Operations, Pascal Balthazar. Now, listen, we just heard Pavi talk about the importance of the role of government, policy making, regulations, but companies shouldn't have to wait for governments to take the lead on this stuff, should they?
Definitely not. The time for action is now. I think legislation is about raising the floor, and what our proposal, Tony's Open Chain, is about raising the bar. So it's an explicit invitation to other chocolate brands to take action now.
Okay, sketch it out for me. What is Tony's Open Chain?
So it's an industry-led initiative. It's a Tony's-led initiative to really disrupt the inequality in the cocoa supply chain. And the way we do that is we invite other chocolate brands, even competing chocolate brands, to join us in sourcing cocoa via the 5 sourcing principles.
Okay, and last year, I understand 3 mission allies joined up with you guys.
That's right.
And we can hear from 2 of them now, Aldi and Fly. Yes. We're going to talk about Open Chain in action.
That's our chocolate milk, powered by Tony's Open Chain. And I'm Nicholas, one of the founders of Fly, and we're a Berlin-based food tech startup developing dairy alternatives. For me, it's super important that we use only the highest quality of ingredients. And with everything we do, that was so far quite manageable because things came from Europe, we could look at them. But when it came to cocoa, it was different. It was the first time we used an ingredient that does not grow in Europe, and that's very difficult to source and it's very complex. We didn't really find a solution until we met up with Tony's Open Chain, and that's really where it changed for us.
Hi there. My name is Sarah. I'm working for the Aldi South Group, and this is our responsibly sourced chocolate bar, our Choco Changer. At Aldi's, we already only source certified cocoa. However, with this bar, we want to go beyond certification and find our way to help to transform the cocoa sector. This is why we became a mission LA at Tony's. In order to scale up our approach, we heavily rely on our customers going for these sustainable options. We need to raise their awareness. With this chocolate bar, our customers are holding change in their hands, and they are actively participating in changing the norm.
I personally learned firsthand actually what the problems in the industry were. I wasn't aware, as many consumers in Germany are not aware of the problem. To me, it was really mind-opening. I can't put any other cocoa into a product that I'm selling that I want to stand behind. Together with Tony's Open Chain, we could produce something where today I'm truly proud of, and I hope that many more Mission Allies will join us in the future to make cacao and the whole food industry different. Cheers.
The more we are, the greater the change. Means I want to encourage all of you to become a Mission Ally.
So 4 Mission Allies, in fact, so far. What impact are they actually having, though?
Yeah, a big impact. Just to sketch it for you, last year, Tony's bought about 8,000 metric tons of cocoa beans, and the 4 Mission Allies collectively added another 4,000 metric tons of cocoa bean set pile. So the way I see it is that it's a 50% bigger impact, bigger footprint of impact. But we're much, much more ambitious than that. Eventually, we want Open Chain to eclipse really the Tony's purchasing. So we're wildly ambitious with what we want to do.
Okay, and talking about ambition, Pascal, you came from Mars, one of the biggest chocolate companies out there, and you've now recently joined Tony's. Tell us, what have you noticed in terms of the difference?
Well, the difference is huge. I think coming from Mars, clearly it's a business that's more than 100 times bigger today than Tony's. There's a lot of things, however, in common, and there's some things that differentiate between Tony's and Mars. What I really like about Tony's is that it's an impact company making chocolate. It's not a chocolate company making impact. Clearly, most of the big chocolate companies around in the world, they originated from being a chocolate company. And now they're being made aware of the issues in their supply chain over the last 10, 15 years. They're trying to solve them almost retrospectively. If I look at where Tony started, it started from the problem. It attracts the problem and is trying to save and solve the problem. And I think that is the biggest difference between the two.
But you mentioned also that huge size difference. So is your job now to scale Tony's up?
My job is twofold. I think one is make Open Chain the solution for the industry. I believe that what we can do with Open Chain is that we want to become equal in size to a big chocolate company in our impact. And that makes sizing up our Open Chain ambition to do about 200,000 metric tons of cocoa beans. And that would be...
Is that realistic? I mean, that's a huge step up.
Well, there's no life without aspiration. So whether it's realistic or not, I think